Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with jazz pianist, composer, and band leader, the great François Bourassa. His latest album is 2017's number 9, and it's the third in a trilogy. He was born in Montreal and first learned the piano at home playing with his mother, then devoted himself to the guitar for 5 years. His transition into jazz was done by a Return to Forever ensemble that he got into, and from there he formed his first group and never looked back. So get to know him and dig this interesting pianist, my friends.
Thank you for taking a minute out for me today. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So let me go ahead and start off here with the newest album, which is number 9. Talk to me about the new album. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm happy because, of course, I love to play with those guys. I know them since so many years, like Guy on bass since 1982, Andre 1983. Greg Ritchie, I played with him like the early 2000s. Then he went to New York for 10 years, and he came back 2 years ago, so we came back in the band. It's a lot of fun to play with those guys, but because we have so many friendship and same musical taste, and so it's a treat.
So let me get back to the beginning of your life here. You were born in Montreal.
That's right.
And you first started on the piano, and then you went over to the guitar. What was it about the guitar that kind of lured you away from the piano?
I did the classical piano from 8 to 12. Then at 12, I started listening to rock music like Led Zeppelin and Johnny Winter, and so classical piano didn't fit for my taste at the time. So I switched to guitar. I played by ear for 5 years in a different rock band at school, and played some blues, some rock and roll, and my taste started to change. Like when I was around 16, 17, I was starting to listening to more maybe progressive rock like Genesis, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So there was more piano in those bands. And then I discovered like the Return to Forever, Chick Corea. So that gave me the need to come back at the piano. So I gradually went into jazz. Like in my early 20s, I was really listening to Miles and Bill Evans and Coltrane. So, but there was a rock period, like when I was like 14, 15, yeah.
So talk to me about your beginnings in jazz. What was your first gig, and were you nervous? Was the stage kind of a natural place for you?
Yes, of course. I studied in classical composition at McGill University, but on the weekend I was doing jazz with my friends. So I started to write tunes. So and then we more and more play together. We won a contest at the time, so we got the chance to open for big concerts at the Montreal Jazz Festival, do our first album. So at the beginning, it went quite, in a sense, quite easy for me because of that contest in Montreal that gave me a good push. But after that, I continue to focus really on writing original music more than play the standard repertoire, which I love. But my focus is really composing original music for the band.
So when you went to the New England Conservatory of Music, you learned under George Russell and Fred Hirsch, some really great teachers. What kinds of things did you learn that really helped you as a musician?
Well, to be surrounded by those guys they were so great. So, and I discovered other players at the time also. I was in the same class as John Medeski and Ben Street, and so we played together. And of course, Fred Hirsch and George Russell. And I also took lesson with Bob Moses, who was a drummer at the time. And Miroslav Vitus was the teacher in the combos. So it was a great surroundings to be there, of course.
You know, with the way you approach music, which tends to be somewhat experimental, how do you see your growth as a musician? What's your goal for as the years go on and the albums come out? What are you trying to do?
It's a good question. I'd like to surprise myself. I don't want to repeat. It's hard. It's a hard process to try to do something new for me. I'm not saying it's new for the musical history, but for me, I'm trying to do new things that I didn't do like 2 or 3 years ago. So I listen to different stuff, and I spend a lot of time exploring at the piano harmonies and rhythms, and so I'd like to go in a kind of searching way for my music, to try to surprise myself. That's my goal.
So you've been at this for over 30 years. You've dedicated your
life
to jazz. Talk to me about how you feel about your career, the twists, the turns, everything that's led up to where you're at today. How do you feel about your career?
Well, I'm happy. Of course, it's a small world, jazz, especially in Quebec. There's a lot of good players here, but to make a career in Quebec, in Montreal, it's not obvious. And because we're not really known outside the Canada, so sometimes we do some festival in Europe, but not too much, and we don't play much in the States either. So in that way, it's not a great career, but musically, I'm happy the way it goes. I mean, how it goes with my music, I'm happy, but I would hope to play more like outside, outside my province. You see, but we do it sometimes, but it's not a big deal. But that's the way it is. I should have. It depends. The decisions you choose. I choose to stay here, to live in Montreal. It's not like it's saying I want to go live in New York and try to make it there. So, but I'm happy at the same time to be here. Yeah. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say, but...
No, it makes sense. It makes total sense to me. Yeah. And I'm going to piggyback off of that. After such a long career in jazz, you clearly love it. So tell me, why do you love jazz?
Why do I love jazz? Is the freedom. The freedom and the interaction I can have with the other players. Like the spontaneity, like the improvisation, of course, and it's really much about the freedom and the interaction with the musicians.
Wonderful.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see a concert, who would you go see?
Definitely, I would have liked to see Coltrane.
Yeah.
For sure. And Monk. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Who have you seen that's been pivotal for you, that you've seen live, that totally blew your mind?
Elvin Jones, Keith Jarrett. There's a lot. Wayne Shorter, there's Brad Meldau. Yeah, there's a lot. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good list. What's next for you? What do you see on your radar? Let's say we interview in 10 years from now. What are you going to want to talk to me about?
I wish to tour, to play that music a lot. That would be my best desire, to go on tour and with those guys and play the music of my last album, and then after that continue to write new music, and I'm also doing side project with a lot of guys here in Montreal. So it's not only I not only play my own music, I'm also in collaboration with other composers here. So it's a mix of playing my own music with my quartet and also playing the music of other guys that I like here in Montreal.
Let me ask you this. Everyone has a version of who you are, your family, your friends, those that you perform for. But who do you think you are? When you wake up and face the world, who are you?
Well, I'm trying to express through music the feelings of so different things, the pain and the feeling of the world and the love, and so it's all a mix of so many different emotions I want to pass through music, So I don't know. It's a hard question.
Yeah, it is. That's why I save it for the end, because it is a hard question. Yeah. But I think you nailed it. I think I got a really good view into your music, into your life as a musician. Thank you for opening up a little bit with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Joe. Thanks a lot. It was my pleasure.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview. where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Montreal, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to François for his time, his stories, and all that music. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com. And for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.